Well, good evening everyone. I'd like to declare the meeting open at 6:04. And welcome everyone present in attendance, and advise that the meeting will be digitally recorded in accordance with the council policy GOV.017, digital recording of the council meetings to record meetings of council, to assist in the preparation of the minutes and to allow live streaming of the council meetings. Acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians on the land of which we meet today, the Tumajina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Record of attendance. We have a full list of councillors, no apologies and no leave of absence previously approved. Item 2.1, the confirmation of minutes of our previous ordinary meeting. There's a recommendation there, councillors.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyan moved. Councillor Brammy seconded. I must remind, if there are any corrections to the minutes, are to be identified and agreed to at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. Are we all happy about how they've been recorded? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Declarations of interest. Councillors, an agenda item number, and staff an agenda item number on our tonight's agenda.
Mr Mayor, if I may, please, I'll declare an interest in item 19.3, which is in the closed session in regards to the General Manager's contract.
Thank you, Mr GM. Anyone further with an interest on tonight's agenda they wish to declare? No? Okay, accepted. Councillors' announcements and reports. Announcements by the Mayor. I don't have anything to announce. The Mayor's communications. 4.2. That the council note my communications for the month. And any questions? I'll move for a second, please.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyan moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. Any questions, councillors? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 4.4, the notification of council workshops. There's a recommendation there, and the councillors' attendance records all run under that heading, 4.1. We have a mover and a seconder, please.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyan. Yes, Councillor Brammy seconded. Any discussion, any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Public questions and statements. We're now at 5.1 on the agenda. Councillors, public questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. We have a list of those there. Public questions received in writing. They've been answered. And away we go right through to 5.3. Public questions without notice. And public statements without notice. And before we go into that, I'd just like to run through this. The Mayor to read before calling the public questions and statements. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply the similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I know members of the public will show consideration and courtesy in their comments. Thank you. Okay, Mr GM, our first public questions without notice. Who do we have? Mr Nichols. Can Mr Nichols, would you like to come forward and propose your question, please?
How's that sound, all right?
Yep, you're coming through, loud and clear.
Right, g'day everyone. My name is Ken Nichols, retired nearly 13 years from work, which I used to work for Forestry Taz, which has now changed its name, of course. I'm concerned about, I'll get my my glasses on, I can hardly read that. I am concerned about the environment within the Waratah Wynyard municipality. Is that? Oh, right, okay. I was walking up Camp Creek near the back of the nursing home on the western edge of Camp Creek about a week ago when I came across the Airport Street subdivision development. A section of landfill on the development near Camp Creek, in brackets one section with only within metres of the creek, extends approximately 60 metres in a southerly direction. This section of landfill is in danger of complete or partial collapse into Camp Creek due to almost zero erosion control measures. This section of fill is well within the creek protection zone or buffer zone or stream reserve, which I believe is at least 30 metres in distance from the creek. Right, go to the questions.
Yeah, thanks. I misled you there, Mr. Nichols. I should have mentioned your public questions and your statement, and yeah, that's good.
This is just a preamble
question
to start with. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Question 1. What control measures do the council intend to take to prevent this situation worsening? That's my first question.
Yeah.
Second question is, why was this situation allowed to occur within such a sensitive zone? And those are my two questions.
Thank you. And Mr. GM, do we have an answer to those two questions at the moment, or will we do that in writing?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think we'll take those questions in writing, Mr. Nichols, and we'll get back to you very shortly with a reply.
Thank you.
Thank you. What was Pam's question?
Both.
Yeah, Mrs. Schultz, your questions and your statement, please.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
The point I want to outline tonight is how to place Wynyard, a microcosm of systems, into the global picture, which is a macrocosm of systems, and its environmental relevance to planning. I begin with systems theory. In other words, everything affects everything else. If one part of a system is taken away, broken or altered, that part weakens the whole system. You might have heard the phrase, death by 1,000 cuts. You take away one part, then another, and finally you reach a threshold or a tipping point of no return. An example of this is the tree removal at Camp Creek. Decades of alteration tipped over the health of those trees. The arborist, instead of recommending actions to save the trees, recommended removal, and that's a biodiversity loss. I strongly suggest that Waratah Council focus on preserving the trees in its area by employing an arborist to save the trees instead of condemning them. In addition, Waratah planners need to take into account the likelihood of failing trees. Leaving a large enough buffer zone in addition to the riparian zone so that any tree failure will not affect anyone. On the global front, Wynyard is not immune to global warming and devastating floods and weather. The perception is that it is a disaster where population is affected and landscape modification is largely responsible. Proper planning and preparedness are needed for the disasters we are expecting in Wynyard. I believe this preparedness should start with strengthening the integrity and resilience of our waterways and other wetlands, which will help cushion the impacts of climate change. Protecting Wynyard's wild areas is more efficient than replanting. My questions are, is the council planning to remove any more trees along Camp Creek or anywhere else?
Okay.
That's the first question.
Okay. And your second question?
Will the council employ an alternative arborist whose report will give appropriate advice to save any identified problem trees?
Okay. In answer to those two questions, Mr. GM, do we have an answer at the moment, or will we notify? We'll take that on notice and we'll reply to you in writing.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes. That's good, Mr. GM. Yep. We now move on to Planning Authority items at 6:14, and we don't have any questions or statements relating to planning matters at this stage. So we'll move straight on to item 6.3, which is the permanent caravan at 301 Pages Road, Morley. We have a recommendation there. Councillor Fairbrother, did you wish to float something prior to moving on this, or what was your intentions?
Yes, Mayor, I have circulated amongst councillors an
Yes.
alternate motion, and it's that alternate motion that I wish to move.
Okay.
For the benefit of the councillors and the gallery, Mayor, I'd like to move that council acting as a planning authority is generally satisfied that the application DA 14/2022 adequately demonstrates compliance with the Waratah Wynyard Interim Planning Scheme 2013 and is satisfied that the application is in general accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning Approvals Act 93 and uses its discretion and approves a permanent caravan which is a required residential use at 301 Pages Road, Morley, subject to the following conditions which are outlined in Council's agenda.
Yep, those
Thank
conditions remain the same.
Correct, thank you.
Okay. Do we have a mover and a seconder for Councillor Fairbrother's motion?
Well, just to hear why the
Oh,
word
sorry. Yeah, Councillor Fairbrother, you're moving it.
Yes, I
Yeah,
am, thank you.
Of course you are. Yeah. I need a seconder and we'll do discussion. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second it to hear the benefit of the changing of the wording.
Councillor Bramley seconded. Away we go. Do you wish to open the debate, Councillor Fairbrother?
That I do, Mayor.
Okay.
I have digressed from the recommendation within the written agenda primarily because I believe the recommendation that I have moved is a lot tighter than the one within the agenda. For me, sitting as a member of the Planning Authority, we need to be satisfied that the application has demonstrated compliance with the scheme. I think that needs to be outlined in the motion that articulates that we as council have considered the representations and the things within it, and that we are satisfied, if we are, with the demonstration within the application as assessed by our council's planners. Essentially, I anticipate, given the history of the site, that there will be another appeal to this particular application, and I think that as council we need to make our decisions as tight as what we can to enable any such test if one is afforded to the application, hence the change in the motion. So I am satisfied as a councillor, sitting as a planning authority member, that the application does demonstrate compliance with the scheme and the discretionary parts of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act, which enables us to provide the discretion that we do. The required uses are spelt out well within the application. It's clear to me as a planning authority member that we should, as a planning authority, grant approval for this use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Councillor Bramish, you indicated you wish to speak.
Well, I just want to ask a couple of questions, if I may. Mr. General Manager and Lady Town Planner, would the wording be appropriate with you guys? Could you see a problem with?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm certainly quite comfortable with the wording as proposed by Councillor Fairbrother.
Mr GM. Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I've got a bit of a concern with it. I'm just, the mover of the motion is more or less foreshadowing an appeal already. I don't know what he knows that we don't know, but I know the block's got a lot of history, and why the 2 or 3 lines that the movers put in virtually doesn't change much. It puts a little bit more of an emphasis on the council in both instances. And the concern that I have with that is that all the councillors that are sitting in on the planning authority don't really have a chance to sort of have a bit of a talk about it and really fully understand it. That's the concern that I've got. There is there's an emphasis just on that council, and I've just got a real concern with that. Whereas the one that's put there by the planners, that the council, in accordance with, and it covers off on section 51 and section 57, just in a generalised order, and we've been operating under that format for as long as I can remember, and this all of a sudden, and this is not the first time we've had a few rule changes in the last few months, and I'm just a little bit concerned, and I think other councillors should be concerned the same. The motion as it is not too bad as I can see, but I'm sort of not happy with that part of it, but I don't see where we can tie that in with the change. It's just a bit of a bullseye.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Any other speakers in regarding the motion that we have in hand?
Just a question through you to the town planner. Is there anything wrong with the original motion that this will fix, or is there very little difference between the original motion and this amendment?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's the opinion of the Planning Department that this is a matter of preference in wording. Either of the wordings would have the same effect in terms of a decision made. So ultimately it would be something for the councillors to discuss as to which type of wording they would prefer. But neither of them would be, as the Planning Department sees it, more effective than the other in terms of the validity of any decision made.
Thank you. Councillor Courtney. Okay. Any further speakers regarding the motion or questions? This, I guess, Councillor Hyland, you spoke against it. I guess the mover's got a right to reply.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, the only thing now is that I just spoke against the wording of that. Now I just wanted to, does that exclude me now from having another go at the general motion, or because it sort of just got all thrown into one and everyone's caught off guard now?
Look, I'd rule, Councillor Hyland, that you've already had your say. Actually, you wanted another crack, but I think you covered it pretty well. Okay, there has been no one speak against the motion. There has been someone speak against the motion. I'm a bit lost. Councillor Fairbrother, would you like to close the debate?
Mayor, if you take Councillor Hyland as speaking in against the motion, he didn't actually speak about the development, and that's the thing the council has to consider tonight. The town plan has articulated that this motion, while it's different in wording, is just as effective as the other one. The matter before us tonight is whether we think, as a planning authority, whether this application is for the area at Pages Road and how it stacks up against the planning scheme requirements. That's what we're here to consider. Hopefully councillors have had all the time in the world that they need to make that assessment. Now is the time to use that assessment. If there hasn't been, Mayor, another foreshadowed motion. So this one is the only one for us to consider at this time, and I think it is appropriate for council. I'm satisfied in my own mind that it complies with the scheme. So I think the only thing for us to do issue the approval as per the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, the debate is closed and I'll call for a show of hands on, there'll be a division. Those in favour of the current motion that we have on the screen, please indicate by showing your hand. Councillor Bramish, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Bradley, Councillor Fairbrother and myself. Those against, Councillor Dunyam and Councillor Hyland and Councillor Edwards. I declare the motion carried. That's 6.3. Okay, that concludes our planning section at 6:25. We move on to agenda item 7.1, questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. They've been answered, and we move to councillors' questions received in writing, and we haven't any tonight, and councillors' questions without notice. We're at that stage 7.3 in the meeting.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I have a question.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor, to the GM, could you please provide a list of building infringements or illegal buildings and associated costs for council for these infringements over the past financial year? And I'm happy to take this on notice for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you will have to take that on notice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've made a note of that, Deputy Mayor Dunyam, and that'll be information for you. Any further questions from the councillors without notice?
I've got a question.
Yeah, Councillor Courtney.
Mine's not technically council related. It's just been brought to my attention 3 times this week that there's an advertisement running for Gavin Pearce where you're reportedly, because I haven't heard the ad, reportedly stating that as the Mayor of the Waratah Wynyard Council you support Gavin Pearce. I'd like to know, is that appropriate for you to say it as the Mayor? Because as Robbie Walsh,
Yep.
I couldn't care less.
No.
But as the Mayor of Waratah Wynyard Council, if that's true, I'm very, very angry.
Okay.
Because I do not support Gavin Pearce. I do not support the Liberal Party. I do not think he's a good representative. So for you to say as Mayor you support Gavin Pearce, are you endorsing him on behalf of all of us? And if so, I'd like you to retract it.
I'm not, thanks, Councillor Courtney. I'm not endorsing him on behalf of the council. I am endorsing him as identifying myself as who I am.
But you didn't though, Robbie. What I've been told is that you identified yourself as Mayor Robbie Walsh, not as Robbie Walsh. As Robbie Walsh, I don't care. If you have identified yourself as Mayor Robbie Walsh, endorsing Gavin Pearce, I feel that's inappropriate.
Okay, well, I'll just have another answer to that, Councillor Courtney, and it goes like this. If you Google Robbie Walsh, there's about 4 of them, and I was identifying myself.
But if you identify yourself as Mayor, you're as a representative of this council and these councillors, and that does not represent me, because I do not want Gavin Pearce as my local representative. So I'm not happy that you've done that as Mayor.
Okay. Well, just as a comparison, Councillor Courtney, I've had my photo in the paper twice with Chris Lynch, the Labor candidate, and I've been identified as Mayor Robbie Walsh.
But you're doing an advertisement promoting Gavin Pearce, that people should vote for Gavin Pearce, and you're saying it as the Mayor of the Waratah Wynyard Council. You don't represent me.
No.
You don't represent my opinion on who should be the representative for this area, and I absolutely disagree that it should be Gavin Pearce.
Okay.
So I don't think it's appropriate.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Point of order. I appreciate what Councillor Courtney is saying, and she certainly emphasised her preferences, political preferences. That is fine, but I think we should be winding this up. I think that Councillor Courtney has also indicated that she's not happy with the situation in terms of your support for a candidate that she doesn't support. I think that it's dragging us all into a political argument of which I am uncomfortable about. I think that we should be looking at our council business tonight and moving on.
Thank you.
Okay, the question is simple then. I don't think it's appropriate for you to represent council as mayor with Gavin Pearce. Is it going to be retracted? Are the ads going to be redone without mayor put in front because you don't represent the council, you represent Robbie?
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order. The point is, the point of order is that the councillor herself has identified that she hasn't even heard the advertisement. So I think the question is out of order until such times as she has, not by hearsay, but she has heard the question on the radio, because I know I haven't heard the question, and I think that it's improper to be asking or posing these questions without the facts. And she has clearly identified the fact that she has not heard the article which the question relates.
Point of order again, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
All of the responses do need to go through you so that we can document them appropriately.
Okay.
Could I just make a point?
I'll accept that Councillor Courtney, you haven't, at the point of order with Councillor Fairbrother, if you haven't heard the ad, I'd like you to hear it and make a decision then. Yeah. With my explanation of how I identified myself, I've identified myself as Robbie Walsh, this Robbie Walsh, not the other 4 or 5 Robbie Walshes, which could be considered perhaps part of it. I think if you've got a problem with it, listen to it, make correspondence with me with the request. Councillor Hyland.
Oh, thanks,
You
Mr.
had a
Mayor.
point?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a point. As local government representatives, whether mayors, deputy mayors or councillors, it's always been prudent that you sort of remain in a pretty neutral sort of a situation, because you've always got to work with the government of the day, and the government of the day holds the money. So you just, and you've pointed out very clearly that you don't like the Liberals, so who are you going to support? So we've really got to work with everybody
Point of order,
to get
Mayor.
on.
We're talking about questions without notice. There hasn't been a question raised. He's making a statement.
My question is very simple. If you've done it as a representative and said as mayor, are you going to retract it? Because it is inappropriate for you to advertise on behalf of Gavin Pearce as the mayor. I just want to know, are you going to retract it if that's what you've done?
Through you, Mr Mayor, if you read, councillors, please refer to the meeting procedures. If there's a point of order and the mayor has made a ruling on that point of order, that is not to be questioned, and that is binding, and you move on with the next item. So, like it or not, Councillor Fairbrother raised a point of order. The mayor ruled, rightly or wrongly, that he asked that you listen to the advertisement, and therefore we must move on to the next item. So, your question is recorded. Yeah. Yep.
Mayor Walsh, I have a question without notice, if I may.
Okay. Councillor Fairbrother.
My question is, can council maximise the fact that the Wynyard Visitor Information Centre is the best visitor information centre in Australia and promote that to the wider community on a regular basis?
Mr GM, the question is from Councillor Fairbrother, can we do an ad in promoting the, I guess that's what you mean, do some media publicity and that sort of thing? Oh, sorry. Mrs Bradley, it's in your department. Would you take that on board, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yes, absolutely. So we are in the process of we would like to have a celebration with the community, and particularly our volunteers, past and present, and any of our staff, past and present, to really promote what it is about the Wonders of Wynyard that won us the Australian Award for Visitor Services. We would also like to celebrate that with internally with council, so with council and with our staff, because having an area that has demonstrated excellence that's recognised at a national level provides aspiration for everyone else in the organisation to say, well, if the Wonders of Wynyard can win a national award, get recognised over other really renowned visitor services, then we can do that too. So, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we absolutely will be promoting that as far and wide as we can.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. Any further councillors' questions without notice?
I think it was a couple of months ago, we did raise the issue of seeing if we could get some signs opposite where the water trucks load, to keep the vehicles from not parking directly opposite, because it makes the road real narrow while there's a truck there. Is there any progress on that?
I'll pass it over to the engineer, but I did see that yellow line marking had been put down there to prevent parking.
Yep. Believe so. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. That there
must have just been done then.
No, I reckon.
Yep.
I reckon it's a week.
Is that on the truck side or on the opposite
It's
side?
on the opposite side. On the council
Yep, thank you.
yard side. Councillor Edwards.
I just wanted to ask a question. Back in November 21, Ken Newington made a statement that didn't require an answer about the disability working group that he was wanting. My question is, has council worked out how this will happen, or does it fall under any plans that we have at present? Like, is there anything going forward for this that Ken would like?
Mrs. Bradley.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we certainly have in the coming year's annual plan. We have an annual plan action under Goal 4 of Community Recreation and Wellbeing to develop a disability action plan incorporating mobility maps and other community and wellbeing plan actions. So within our community health and wellbeing plan, and also within the age-friendly communities and the youth plan, there are actions within those. So we'll utilise that to be able to develop up a disability action plan that will occur in the next financial year as an annual plan action.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. Any further councillors' questions? Councillor Deputy Mayor Dunya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mrs. Bradley, just to follow on from that, is it the responsibility of this council to form a disability working group, action group, whatever?
Mrs. Bradley.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. At the moment, we've got the action plan action there, and there are a range of different ways that we do consultation, and so we'll determine what is the best way to do that so that we get a number of different voices and views heard. So it could be that we do that through a working group, or it could be through some other consultation methods to be able to ensure that we have a really broad view to be able to build that plan.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Bramish?
Thanks, Mayor. Oh, it's probably not all that long since I asked it. Has there been any update on the toilet at Yolla?
Mr. G.
Or anything yet?
Oh, yeah. Mr Summers, is that in your department?
Look, we're still chasing a wastewater system report for one of the alternate sites. We did a follow-up with the report writer. They had some personal circumstance that kept them away from work from an extended period of time, but we're expecting that prior to Easter. So.
Thank you. Any further councillors' questions? Councillor Bradley.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to thank the General Manager for replacing the lock on the toilets at Boat Harbour Beach. He did that very promptly, and thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Okay, any further? I think we've been around the table, haven't we? Okay. No one else got a question? We'll move on. Item 10.1. The Mount... Should it? Yeah. Oh, of course it should. Yeah. I'm not the only one having a bad night. 9.1. The mountain bike trail feasibility. There is a recommendation there of the 1 and 2.
I'll move that.
Councillor Edwards moved.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Seconded Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Any speakers?
Yes. I just wanted to say that I was a little bit disappointed that I found it in the agenda. I thought it was going to come to a workshop first, and I thought we would have been forewarned of the outcome of it prior to coming into the agenda. But in saying that, we'll move forward, and I'll note like point 2 of that, where they have providing principal support to explore a feasibility in a pathway from Wynyard to Stanley. So I like that idea. And then also when I was reading through it, in one part of it, the provision of mountain bike trails is not in line with any of Council's current plans and strategies and has not come up as a priority in any previous community consultations. However, if community sentiment changes, particularly as part of the community consultation for the Aldina Forest Reserve recreation proposal, then Council could reconsider mountain biking in that area. So my question is, can people still give feedback to the Aldina Forest Reserve?
Mr GM.
Through Mr Mayor, the Aldina concept plan I guess consultation period or feedback period closed, I think on about the 1st or 2nd of April. Now, clearly with whatever feedback, and I haven't seen the feedback that's come in, so I don't know whether or not this issue has been raised or not. But certainly councillors will get another chance to discuss any future versions of the concept plan at Aldina into the future.
It's a bit disappointing, that's all. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr GM. Any further speakers? Councillor Fairbrother.
Mayor, if it was disappointing, I'm not quite sure, was the previous speaker a mover or a second to the motion?
Yeah, it was a mover.
I would have thought that if they were extremely disappointed with it, they wouldn't have supported or moved the motion. Couldn't quite get my head around that one. I would have preferred they be debated in 2 separate sections, one recommendation 1 and one recommendation for number 2. Because I'm split between both of them. I don't agree with number 1, that we should shelve a community concept of mountain bikes for Waratah Wynyard. I think that is a good idea, and to me it needs further work. I look at Sisters Beach and the opening up of the fire trails down at Sisters Beach. I don't know how many of the elected members around the table have been down there to have a look at see what work's been done. Great location for mountain bike riding. I just think why are we closing the door on that opportunity? I guess the people that have made the presentation to council can still progress their ideas or concepts and come back to council, but it would be better if council's door was open instead of shut, like we seem to be doing at the moment with this particular motion. So I don't support recommendation 1, and I have some reservations for item number 2. I don't know if councillors have been out and had a look at the rail corridor but the bridges alone in the Flowerdale area must amount to, I don't know, a terrible lot of money for bridge replacement in the Fist Lane, Gates's Road, rail area on its own. I don't know. Yeah, we could get around it, I'm sure, by using local roads, but the rail corridor, the motion is quite specific about using the disused Wilshire rail corridor. I just, that in itself, that's why Tasrail haven't reinvigorated the rail line, because the cost of the bridges. And I just think that there's got to be other. We've got more important projects than that one in my mind to investigate than the rail corridor between Circular Head and Wynyard. So I don't think at the moment I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Okay, any further speakers? Councillor Bremish.
Thanks, Mayor. How we're going to go here, I'd like to move that this motion lay on the table, it come back to a workshop before a decision is made.
I'll second that.
Yeah, okay, move Councillor Bremish and seconded Councillor Courtney that it return to lay on the table and be discussed at a workshop. Okay?
Thank you.
And we need to take a vote on that. So, I don't think there's any discussion. No, there's no discussion, Councillor Bremish. Yep. Okay, we'll take a vote on what's been proposed. Those in favour of what Councillor Bremish proposes, please indicate. Councillor Dunman, Councillor Bremish, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Bradley, Councillor Edwards. Those against? Councillor Fairbrother, Councillor Hyland and myself. Motion's carried. Okay. 9.4 and 9.2, is it? Oh, I was wanting to get out. Oh, here we go. Sorry, folks. I'll be better next time. 9.2, the Parks, Reserves and Sporting Ground Assessment Management Plan and Services Level Document.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. Okay, you wish to open any debate, Councillor Duniam?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Question, Councillor Hyland.
In regard to the Breakwater Project, is there any updates on that? Because at this point in time, the netting or the safety barrier is brought right back nearly to the corner of the yacht club, and there's huge holes developing under there now, and it's just got totally triple worse, if you like, for those words, in just the last month, I would suggest. So I just don't know whether you take some advice from the State Department or...
Mr Summers, do you wish to... Are you able to comment on Councillor Hyland's question?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. There is a halt to connecting footpaths and the like from the yacht club in that area as well. The halt is to allow some coastal engineers to attend the site, have a look at what's happening and make a sensible recommendation before we move forward.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Okay. Question, Councillor Bremish?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know how, probably the best way to do it. With our service level on our parks and lawns and that, are we going to have a thing in place like we have with our roads and potholes? Or are they going to be so deep before we fix them? Or are we going to so long. Are we going that far into this or not?
Mr. Summers.
Yep, no problem. Through you, Mr. Mayor, but they've been documented in a similar way, rather than a grass height, if you like. They've been specified as a frequency depending upon the season. So I don't have it open in front of me, but I know for sporting grounds, for example, there is a difference in mowing frequency depending upon whether the ground's in use or out of use and rehabilitated. So.
Thanks, Mr. Summers. Okay, any further questions?
Yes.
Councillor Bradley.
Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering if I could ask the General Manager a question about the line markings on the turn off to Pages Road, and is it Calder Road and Pages Road? Today I nearly collected a car there because there's no line markings. There's a huge area to turn into Pages Road, but there's no lines down the middle of it, and you're coming up towards Pages Road to turn in, and I nearly collected a car there, and there's no markings on the road at all, and if there is, in some places it's very faded. So I'm just wondering whether something could be done with it, because it's going to be cause an accident.
Thanks, Mr. Bradley. Mr. Summers.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, technically, that's not a matter related to the item in front of us on the agenda. So I'm happy to take up a discussion with Councillor Bradley after the meeting, if you like, and get some further details.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Okay. Items relating to matters relating to 9.2. Any further? Councillor Ireland, did you wish? It's all right. The light was on. I thought you wanted to go. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, we've got item 9.2. We've had a mover and a seconder, and no one wishes to speak for the motion. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried with the absence of Councillor Fairbrother. At 6:50. 6:48 to 6:50. Okay. We move on to item 9.3, and it is the annual plan update report as at the 31st of March.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Deputy Mayor Daniel, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Edwards.
Yes. In one of the actions, 4.3.1.1, the erosion work at Anzac Park, I've noted here that the design and tender is expected to end at the current financial year, and works to follow the bridge upgrade by the state government. My question is, when is the bridge work to commence? Do we have a date for that?
Through management, Mr. Summers, do we have any idea?
Not a firm date. I believe the state government's website points to that starting in the calendar year, but we don't have a firm date, no.
Thank you. Okay. Anything further on 9.3? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.4. The annual update of the community conversations.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam. And who was second there? Councillor Courtney. Any discussion?
Only a comment, Mr. Mayor. Those discussions that we've had with the community, I believe that they're absolutely well worthwhile. While we have low attendance at a couple of the venues, others, particularly say Waratah, Boat Harbour, the people come along and they certainly tell us what they think we should be doing, and I do value their comments. I think we all do, and the community conversation should continue for as long as possible.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.5, the award of a contract there for Public toilet and barbecue cleaning services. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Move Councillor Highland.
Yeah, I'll second that, Mayor.
Seconded Councillor Bramish. Any speakers? Do you wish to speak, Councillor Highland?
No, only obviously the contract's going to get awarded, and we've had a little bit of trouble with the last one, so we'll obviously have to wait and see how we go with this one. And it's a job that, particularly in our car parks, that everybody's right onto it, so they'll certainly have to be on their toes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further speakers? If not, Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I believe this would be the right way for us to go. Horses for courses. I reckon it's probably hard emptying rubbish bins and then rushing to clean the toilet. I think if we could split them up, we'll get a top job done, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. Any further speakers? Nothing to close on, Councillor Highland. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 9.6 is the Auditor General's report on the financial statements of the state entities.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Duniam,
I'll
moved.
second that.
Councillor Edwards, seconded. Any speakers? No speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. It was 9.6, and we are now on 9.7, the Senior Management Report. That Council note the monthly Senior Management Report.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam, moved. Councillor Courtney, seconded. Any speakers? Any
Couple
questions?
of comments, if I may, Mr.
Comments?
Mayor. Yes, I note that the EBA process is recommenced and obviously in progress. And I also note that the General Manager had a meeting with the RSL to determine the current status and plans for the future. It would be interesting to hear what those plans are. Big Heart, I guess that's also going ahead as we would like. I advise that I'm actually on the Big Heart Advisory Committee. I was invited to go on that, and our first meeting is tomorrow. And the use of the corporate seal on the 16th of March, the new oval at the Wynyard High School to the tune of 500,000. So there's some really good points that have been included in this report.
Thank you. Any further comments or speakers? Councillor Fairbrother.
Yeah, question if I might. It was to do with the corporate listing there, where General Managers participated in a meeting with Central Coast Council to explore a regional resource sharing model for reserve maintenance. Given that we've just at 9.2 adopted the Parks, Reserves, Sporting Grounds, Infrastructure and Asset Management Plan for 2022 and the Service Level Document for 2022, is there anything that come out of that Central Coast exploration?
Through Mr. Mayor, look, probably that is a very narrow, I guess, field that's being looked at. Central Coast Council, you may have seen in the newspaper, have been facing some backlash around particularly cricket grounds and preparation of centre wickets. And so they made a submission at a General Managers meeting to can that be explored on a broader or more regional basis. So how can that be explored across the coast, the management of centre wickets and cricket wicket blocks and so forth. So as a result of that, Central Coast asked me to participate in a meeting with them, or a meeting or two, to help explore that concept. So there's been nothing further progressed. There'll be some discussion papers done up, but at the moment just some options are being explored as to whether or not A, clubs continue to look after centre wickets, B, councils have some involvement, or C, a combination of the three, and there's very different arrangements across every council across the coast, so it's important to try and get some consistency, whatever that may be.
Thanks, Mr. Graham.
Yeah, thank you. Just further to that, thank you for the response. Was you in a position to indicate to us whether the discussion centred mainly around cricket wickets? As I recognise, the General Manager of Central Coast Council has been big on shared services generally, not just reserves.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, this meeting was absolutely just on the one subject area, not a broader discussion than that.
Okay, item 9.7, anything further? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.
No, you've missed one, 9.8. No, it's the finance.
It's the same item.
9.8. Yeah, same item.
It's the right item.
Yep.
Okay, folks, 9.8 is the financial report for the period ended 31st of March.
So moved.
Councillor Fairbrother move. Yeah,
Yes.
we've just observed that mistake. Councillor Hyland. Okay, any questions, folks? Any speakers? Councillor Fairbrother.
Oh, I just moved the motion, Mayor, but I will make a comment. I think I didn't highlight it, but I think is it this article that does indicate we've spent 35% of our capital budget on capital works, thereabouts. I think it says somewhere in the report. As a councillor, that doesn't concern me. It did jump off the page when I read it. I thought, we're clearly been busy doing other things, and perhaps it is a reflection of the fact the way the market is at the moment with subcontractors. So I guess we still have funds in the pocket for some of these projects. It just was a figure that jumped off the page at me at the time that I read, that's all.
Okay, any further speakers? Any further questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We move on to 9.9, which is minutes of other bodies and committees, and it's 9.91. The Audit Panel Committee held the 22nd of March on Model Code of Conduct for Audit Panel members. We have a recommended...
So move, please, Mr Mayor.
Move. Deputy Mayor Dunyam. I missed it. Councillor Hyland. Any questions on the recommendation? The matter? I'll put it. Okay. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We moved on to item 10.0, which is matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting, and that the council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting.
So move, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Councillor Bramish. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Closure of the meeting to the public. The council resolves by an absolute majority that we go into closed meeting to consider the following matters at 7.0
So move, Mr Mayor.
PM. Deputy Mayor Dunyam, second to Councillor Bramish. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.